Time now for our Wall Street Week Daily segment. The host of Wall Street Week, David Westin, had a chance to sit down with Deborah Lehr. She's the Paulson Institute Vice Chairman and Executive Director over at the Edelman Global Advisory and CEO there as well, to catch up with her about her thoughts on China and Xi Jinping. Take a listen.
Xi Jinping has a lot on his plate. The world has really been very focused, I think, on how to deal with a strong China, and now we haven't really thought through some of the implications of a weak China. When we look at what is happening in the real estate market, there are still major challenges ahead, and this is critically important because it's one of the main sources of investment for most Chinese. And so if the market is not doing well there, it has a significant impact on growth and investment opportunities. Two, local debt. This is something that policymakers have been tracking for a long time, and COVID just made it worse. A lot of this debt, and this is what's really concerning, is off the books, and so it's very hard to even track and be aware of. And it relates to how the center is dealing with and forcing a lot of these local governments to take on unfunded mandates, and their main source of revenue previously was from the real estate market. And so if they haven't had access to revenues coming from the sales of real estate, they have to look for other sources. It's a big concern, enough for Xi Jinping to be sending down policy enforcement teams, which you would think after all this time in office he wouldn't have to do anymore. But it shows the concern that they have with local officials and their willingness to actually follow mandates coming from Beijing. And then to top that, you have weakness in the local banks, which again are lending to the local governments and to the local real estate market. Top that with youth unemployment. For many in China, this is the source of their retirement plan, the fact that their children are going to be working and supporting the parents and the grandparents. And the numbers are over 20%. The unofficial numbers are believed to be significantly higher than that. And it creates a real lack of confidence domestically in China and in Xi Jinping's economic policies. Top this with the fact that there's a slowing global economy, meaning that China's export opportunities continue to be hit, and they're down 15%, and changing geopolitics, making it more complicated for companies to be doing business in China. And Xi Jinping really has some rough waters ahead.
Deborah, in business, and for that matter in life, the starting point on fixing problems is to really get your arms around how big the problem is, what its nature is. To what extent do you think President Xi at this point does have his arms around that? He's got a new team in place now with his renewal, if I can put it that way, of his tenure. Does he have a sense of how big it is? For example, on some of the local debt that you referred to, do they know what the numbers are?
These are issues that they have been following for a very long time, and I think they have a very good sense of what the challenges are ahead. I think at times, as they look through what the solutions might be, they're not always sure what the implications of taking a policy will be. For example, if you start limiting access to economic and financial data domestically, it's going to have an impact on the confidence that people have. One, they assume that you're covering up some kind of problem, but also it means that they don't have the kind of information that they need to make important financial or investment decisions. This is very disconcerting, I think. So as they look through what the solutions are to these problems, they're taking a lot of issues into account. You're right, he does have his new team in place. The excuse in the past used to be that there were people, particularly in the provinces, who didn't believe in what Xi Jinping's policies were and therefore weren't willing to implement them. Now that he has his people in place, not only at the top, but in many cases throughout the bureaucracy, it's disconcerting to know that still these policy enforcement teams, as I said earlier, are going out to ensure that people are actually implementing his policies. And it must mean really he has still a lack of confidence in his ability to govern through some of these infrastructures that he has. And I think that's one of the reasons we see such an emphasis still on the party and ruling through the party, not through the government structure.
Well, I wanted to ask exactly about the party, Deborah, because it's hard to understand, certainly, what's going on in China. That's why we turn to people like you. Is President Xi at this point solving this problem for the economics of it, or is he solving it for the ideology of it? Because some of his rhetoric has indicated he actually may care more about the party and the party rigor in the private sector than he cares about the economics of it.
Well, that's an excellent question. He certainly has been very focused on using the party as the means to govern, whether it's through the government itself, whether it's through the military, whether it's through the judiciary. It's the party that's supreme. And he has tried to create an ideology and a unity through that. We see in the new structuring of the government that it's all the party committees who are actually setting economic policy, and the government more and more is just an implementer. So as we see these difficulties in the government, these weaknesses in the ability to create jobs for the youth, in the challenges in attracting direct foreign investment or venture capital or private equity, the big question will be whether Xi Jinping pivots and focuses more on market opening and creating the confidence and the conditions to continue to attract foreign business, which is necessary if he's going to continue to grow his economy. He can't do it without foreign business being present. We've seen him pivot before. We saw how quickly he was willing to pivot at the end of COVID in opening up to the rest of the world, and we're starting to see signs that he's beginning to reconsider some of his economic policies to be more open and change that emphasis from such a focus on the party, not that it's ever going to go away, but to really be focused more on providing opportunities. Look at what he's been doing in technology and the opportunities now in encouraging platform companies and the tech executives to be innovative, where it wasn't that long ago when they were one of the top targets.